We're kicking off our divisional trade preview with a look at the Mariners' own division, the AL West. Do the Rangers, Athletics, Angels, or Astros have anything the M's will look to acquire this winter? Let's talk about it. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. This is Trident Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's LOCKEDON to get yourself started. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. And if you want an early preview of our 2023-2024 Mariners off-season plan, head on over to the Patreon, sign up. You can get a couple of those episodes where we're hammering things out for free. Over the next week or so, we're going to be going division by division to identify potential trade targets for the Mariners here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. And we're going to start today with their own division, the AL West. So, Colby, let's just get this out of the way. How are the Mariners getting Mike Trout this offseason?
Jimmy Joyce.
Right. Jimmy Joyce and Mike Ford.
Maybe Dylan Moore if they're going to play hardball.
Right. Right. It would hurt, but
it stinks.
You got to sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
You got to risk it for the biscuit sometimes.
That's right. That's right. Scared money don't make none.
Sure, all the platitudes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't. That's the answer to that question. They don't.
Is there anyone on the Angels though that you think could be of interest to the Mariners? And look, they still haven't made a trade with Mariners since Jerry Dipoto took over in Seattle.
One of only two teams that Jerry hasn't made a trade with. Can you guess the other one?
I believe it's the Rockies.
It is the Rockies, which makes sense because the Rockies don't function like a normal baseball team.
Now, apparently they were talking this past offseason about pitching, which I would assume was Chris Flexen, because Chris Flexen wound up in Colorado eventually, but
sure. Marco's also from Colorado, so maybe. But
maybe.
Yeah. So the Angels do have some guys. It's also seems unlikely they would trade any of them to Seattle because honestly, the only reason that I could think of that these two teams haven't hooked up, with a trade yet in the last 10 years, is because they're holding some kind of grudge against Jerry Dipoto because the two teams line up fine. Like it's not like they've
lined up fine in the past. They line up fairly well right now. Like,
I mean, there's some guys. There are some guys. And I don't know what direction the Angels are going to want to go. I doubt they full rebuild, even though they should. Now that they've lost Ohtani and their farm system took a hit because they tried to go for it and it blew up in their face spectacularly. So they should try to rebuild a little bit here, and they do have some pieces to help along with that. Are they going to? I kind of doubt it, but whatever. In terms of just players that could make some sense for the Mariners, how about Mariner killer Luis Rengifo? Play some second, play some third. Okay hitter, average bat, like switch hitter. There's some value to Luis Rengifo. How about Patrick Sandoval? If you're looking for your mid-rotation starter, be a little pricey, but he's definitely a guy who should interest you. We remember the reports in the past that the Mariners liked Reed Detmers coming out of the draft. He's a guy who's kind of looks like he might be close to breaking out, but it's the Angels, so who really knows?
Right.
How about Andrew Wantz? No, I'm joking. So there are some guys there.
That'd be very funny. They should acquire Andrew Wantz and Cole Irvin this offseason.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just complete the meme circle.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a few. I think probably my favorite one though, is Taylor Ward.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting guy. There's a lot of Mitch Haniger
Yeah,
and
I was going
Taylor
to say
Ward.
he reminds me so much of Mitch Haniger.
He does. I mean, he hasn't quite broken out like Mitch did, but good right fielder, can fake it in center field for a while. Probably
Yep.
25 home run power, draws walks. And I'm talking like 2019 Mitch or 2018 Mitch Haniger, not 2022 Mitch Haniger, where it's sell out for power.
Sure.
He struggled this year though, but he does remind me quite a bit of Mitch Haniger, and I believe that. And this is just speculation of mine. I think Jerry DiPoto and that baseball ops department, they really like Taylor Ward.
Yeah,
and they would like to acquire him.
He was still slightly above league average this year, 107 WRC
okay.
plus, and he was having a decent year until his face exploded thanks to a fastball from Alek Manoah.
Sounds very much like Mitch Haniger, doesn't it?
Yeah, wow. He's probably not a 137 WRC plus guy like he was in 2022, but can he be like a 110, 115 WRC plus guy? I think he can.
Yeah,
so
I think so.
Yeah, so I would like them kicking the tires on a Taylor Ward trade. I don't see any potential of a deal happening between these two teams because of everything that we just said with the whole Jerry thing. I think there's legitimate beef there. And like they just straight up don't want to work with Jerry. I wonder if he's like straight up just blacklisted by Artie Moreno, no matter who the regime is there, the front office is.
He might be. I will say it's one-sided. Like Jerry is not ignoring the Angels.
Yeah, Jerry's not going to ignore any opportunity to potentially make his team better.
Right. So. And so if that's just how the Angels feel, you're kind of stuck. But Taylor Ward is a guy, you get him for 3 years. He's going to be, 29. He's 29 right now. He'll turn 30. So this is the type of guy that the Angels should sell if they were to actually rebuild, which I think they should. But doesn't seem like they're interested in doing that. It doesn't feel like they have any interest in trading anybody to the Mariners, period. But there are some legitimate opportunities on this team, and it kind of sucks that we have to cross them off the list because Taylor Ward makes a whole lot of sense. Patrick Sandoval makes a whole lot of sense. Rengifo makes some sense. Is Brandon Drury a free agent, or is he signed a 2-year deal?
Don't know off the top of my head.
I think he signed a 2-year deal. So,
but the Mariners have had, in theory, multiple chances to add Brandon Drury, and
they don't like him at all.
Yeah,
it really feels that way.
I don't think they're interested at all in Brandon Drury for one reason or the other.
He's made them look foolish on that stance for 2 years in a row. So maybe just admit you're wrong, but no, I would love to see Taylor Ward, in a Mariners uniform.
Agreed. I think he's a really good fit.
Yeah, I think he's a good fit. I think he's a really good player, and he just reminds me so much of Mitch Haniger. And like adding a healthy Mitch Haniger type player to this lineup would go a long way. But
yeah, I mean, because like
the Angels are dumb.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just I don't know what the reasons for him not playing more than 65 games in all the years leading up to 2022. But I do worry a little bit about the fact that he hasn't played a whole lot except for last season. But if just talking about the player, talking about what the upside is there production wise, it's very Mitch Haniger-esque, and I think this team could really use a Mitch Haniger type of bat in their lineup right now. So
I really wish Taylor Ward played for anybody else because he would be very high on my target list.
Agreed. All right, so we're going to talk about the other 3 teams in the AL West in just a moment, but first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. And yeah, the Mariners might not be playing right now, but the Kraken and Seahawks are. So whether the action is on turf or on the ice, you can bet on it all with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, that's LOCKEDON, and kick off the NFL season. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. So, who do you want to talk about next here in the AL West as we continue our divisional trade target preview? Do you want to go A's? Because I feel like there's a couple of possibilities with the A's, but it's also the A's. The A's are terrible. They don't have a ton of options here, but they're one of the very, very few like clear sellers heading into this offseason. So yeah, let's talk about them. So I know you like Seth Brown. I know you like Brent Rooker, but he strikes out a whole lot. Anyone else? Or you just want to talk about those guys?
Well, there is Rooker is interesting. He's right-handed pull power hitter, which traditionally not a profile that works well at in T-Mobile.
Yeah.
And he does strike out a ton. Now, here's the deal. I don't care as much about strikeouts as most.
Oh, he said the
people.
thing. He said the thing, guys.
But I really don't like. There has been an overcorrection on Mariners like discourse about how much you have to eliminate strikeouts, and that's not really the point. Right. If Teoscar hit 30 home runs, you wouldn't care that he struck out 30% of the time. If he was, if he drew, 10% walk rate, you wouldn't care that he struck out 30% of the time. So, and Rooker did those things last year. So, my bigger concern with Rooker is that he is really first base DH only. Like, you don't want him in left field. And there's a point at the end of the year where even Oakland was like, yeah, this guy's probably a platoon hitter, so we're only going to start him against lefties. So, he is a really good platoon partner, but he's Ty France, but France has a bigger track record. Rooker runs better, but it's not like he's a burner or anything like that. You're not getting excess value on the bases. Again, he's not very good defensively in a corner. But I do like the player. I do like, the idea, and certainly at some point I'm interested, but I don't think he can be your primary bat that you bring in this winter. And I don't really see a path short of some kind of bulk deal, which Oakland has been known to take. So I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not writing Rooker off entirely just because of the high strikeout rate, but I don't think he's, plan A, B, C, D. Like he's down the list of ways.
What about Ryan Noda? Because like he strikes out even
problem.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that, it's kind of what I've talked about with Brandon Belt in the past. Like he also walked a lot this year, so it kind of balances itself out. Like he walked 15.6% of the time this year. Now he doesn't hit for a high average, but again, because of that high walk rate, he gets on base a lot. 364 on base percentage this year, 123 WRC plus overall. He's not a good defender, but again, you need guys that get on base. Like I know he strikes out a lot, but again, that there's value there in that kind of bat. So what do you think about Noda?
I probably pass. I think Noda is a guy that Oakland, I don't want to say builds around because he's not that type of guy, but I think he's the type of guy that you just keep, and like he's, a fan, like a guy that fans can root for, and you really don't lose much value if you trade him. He's just a rookie, so you have him for 5 more years, and like you can trade him in a year or two and basically get the same value, maybe more, because maybe he cuts down on the strikeouts.
Right.
So in theory, Noda is fine, but I don't think I'm going to want to pay the freight that Oakland's probably going to ask. Now I don't know what they're going to ask. I'm speculating on cost. So.
Well, we had heard that, when the Mariners were trying to talk to them about Frankie Montas and Chris Bassett, that they were kind of putting a divisional tax on their ask with, I assume not just the Mariners, but maybe the Astros, Rangers, whoever else was talking to them within the AOS. So maybe that's still a thing. I don't see why it should be, but
I mean, if it was even a thing.
If it even was a thing to begin with, right? We don't know for sure. That was just something that was kind of floating around out there. But yeah, I just like there are guys on the A's that I like. That I'm like, yeah, they're interesting, but I just don't see a perfect fit here. So
yeah, there's a reason this team's rebuilding. It's because they suck.
Right. No, they're really bad. They have some interesting players. They have some fun players like Asturi Ruiz, but overall, I don't really see a perfect fit here for the Mariners. And again, if the A's are going to ask for a little bit more because the Mariners just so happen, and again, we don't know if this is a thing, but if that is the case where they're asking for a little bit more just because the Mariners play in the same division as them, I'm out.
Yeah. I do think, Paul Blackburn is kind of an interesting number 5
Sure. Yeah.
type. But I feel like he's more or less right-handed Marco. So he's probably no. JP Sears is a guy, lefty. I think would work really well out of the pen. So maybe.
Yeah.
But he's also got 5 years of club control. So
Right.
yeah, I just don't know if that's going to happen. And then his name Austin Pruitt, I believe, is it Austin or there's a couple
it's awesome.
Pruitts.
It's awesome Pruitt. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting things with Pruitt. He is a rental, but there's a chance that he gets non-tendered. So there are a couple of guys here, like a couple role players that maybe fit.
Oh, he got DFA'd, and
okay.
but he has a forearm injury apparently.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know much about it. I just went on his FanGraph page real quick.
Sure.
And
Seth Brown, Ryan Noda, Brent Rooker as role players. I think they all make some sense. Paul Blackburn and like JP Sears or Ken Waldachuk. Mostly the lefties out of the pen is where I would have interest in them. But there's a few role players, some bench guys, some, number 5 starters, rotation depth types, but there's really not a lot here. And any player that you might have interest in, probably one that Oakland doesn't want to trade, but who knows? They might just burn the entire thing to the ground even further. So yeah, I mean, like again, if I could get Rooker for like a bulk deal, like for like 3, prospects in my 20 through 30 range, fine, whatever, I'm in.
Yeah.
Because I can get him at bats at first, DH, and I could stick him in the outfield once or twice a week and not absolutely destroy my defense. So same goes for Brown. If I could get him for like,
peanuts,
bucket of balls and an ice cold Coke, like fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's just not anybody that I'm like really excited about. There's nobody that I'm like they don't have a Sean Murphy, right? They don't have that guy who you're just like, that's the guy. And then everybody else is.
Yeah, they don't have a 5-win player on that team.
No, they don't. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, Zach Geloff might be that guy, but like
maybe, but they're not trading him.
Yeah.
But like, like I don't know. They might go into next year with one guy who could legitimately get 3 WAR.
Yeah.
So that's a bad team, and there's a reason why. So yeah, I mean, obviously there are some bulk guys, some bullpen guy or some potential bullpen guys, but nobody that I look at and I say, yeah, this guy absolutely you acquire him and he's going to be in your starting lineup every day, and or he's going to be in your opening day bullpen. Like nobody like that even. So some guys to watch, sure, but not a ton there.
So the Astros, this is another team where it's like I like quite a few of the players on the roster. I just don't know how the Mariners would, in any reality, be able to land them. One guy that I look at, and I've kind of jokingly talked about with you, is Chas McCormick, but
Cheater McCormick.
Yeah, Cheater McCormick. One like
I don't. Ty France.
Yeah, I don't think the Mariners would have any interest in bringing him into the clubhouse. I don't know if that actually was a thing, but
it doesn't feel like they didn't act like it was a thing. So
they don't ever really act like anything is a thing though.
But like
except for Brent Honeywell in Chicago when he hit Jose Caballero, that was weird.
I mean, that was definitely a thing because that was a punk move. But like, I don't know. You're saying you don't want Hector Neris?
Jeez, isn't he a free agent anyway?
Nah, he can opt. It's like an $8 million player option or something like that. But no, that's definitely not happening.
Yeah. So like,
I'll tell you what, the one guy that I think has a chance to get traded this winter, actually, that would surprise a lot of people. Just not going to get traded to Seattle. They're not doing this in division. Alex Bregman is a guy I could absolutely see them trade.
Yeah.
They're gonna.
If the Red Sox didn't have Devers, he would be a perfect Red Sox. Alex Bregman. Yeah. I can easily see him in that uniform.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, he already takes advantage of the Crawford boxes, so he might as well turn some of those home runs into doubles. But like, I like Bregman. Good player. The it sounds like the Astros are wanting to re-up Altuve again. They have Tucker. They're going to have to take care of here pretty soon. Kyle Tucker's another guy. Maybe they keep Bregman and trade Tucker, but again, I just don't see those guys getting traded in division. And it's not that Houston won't trade with Seattle; they have in the past.
Yeah, they have. It's just they're not going to trade on the high end.
No.
Which is another reason that I'm just like, I don't think they would do McCormick. Like,
yeah, McCormick had a breakout year. Like could you go get like a Jake Myers?
Maybe.
Like, maybe fourth outfield type, like whatever. Could you go get?
They don't really have a ton of like depth pieces on them into like Dubon, maybe, but
yeah, Dubon's a nice player. I like Dubon. Some guys in the pen, like Brian Abreu, maybe, but like
would they trade Presley?
They might, but also like, what do they want? And do the Mariners want to give that to their division rivals? So again, by the way, the whole idea, might as well address this because it's the only time we're going to. The idea that like interdivision trades are like really rare. They're really not. But they do come with like a little bit of extra funk on them because it particularly if you're both competing for the division, which
if you're both aiming for the same spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lot easier to trade with the Angels and the A's because realistically they don't have much of a shot next year. Whereas Houston wants to win the World Series next year and probably can. So can you. So yeah, Bregman and Tucker would be awesome, and I could see one of them getting traded. I would not be shocked if one of them got traded. It's just not going to be to the Mariners, and that's too bad because I think both would be great fits in Seattle. But yeah, obviously Altuve's not going anywhere. Pena, you're better at shortstop than they are anyways. Who cares? You're better catchers. Your rotation's better. Like maybe a bullpen piece or two, but the bullpens are pretty similar, and I'm not trading premier prospects for Ryan Presley, and probably the Astros aren't either. So yeah, there's just not a great fit. These teams are like, you're not getting Yordan. So, although
I'd be surprised. Yeah. I'd be surprised
for
though.
Yordan. Baby Yordan for big Yordan.
That's a galaxy brain trade idea. I'd be very surprised if these two teams made a major league trade, like maybe a minor league trade, but a major league trade this winter. Maybe one of the bullpen arms, but I'd be pretty surprised overall. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. We are previewing the American League West and trying to identify some trade targets potentially for the Mariners this winter. Lastly, we're talking about the Texas Rangers, who are now one win away from winning the World Series. So possibly going to have a World Series champion back-to-back in the American League West, but two separate teams. The Rangers, I assume they're just going to be looking to build upon what they already have this winter. But is there anyone on that roster you think could be available and could be available for the Mariners?
Yeah, actually. One name that I would throw out there, and this is like 1% chance that it might happen.
Corey Seager.
No, but Nathaniel Lowe.
Okay.
Left-handed hitting first baseman, kind of Ty France like, but from the left side. I think, again, speculation, but I think Texas is going to be involved in Pete Alonso talks. I think they're going to be involved. I think they're going to be involved in Goldschmidt if he is shopped. Like, I could see the Rangers going like big. Like if they don't get Ohtani, and I think they're going to try, but I just don't see it. Not impossible, but if they don't get Ohtani, I don't think they're going to not spend money this year. And so you go, okay, where can we upgrade? Lowe was okay this year, but not great. So if they do acquire, a first baseman like Pete Alonso, might they trade Lowe? Maybe. Would they trade him to Seattle? I don't know. Right. And again, like the Astros, the Rangers and the Mariners will make trades with each other. They're not opposed to that whatsoever. A couple guys like John Gray, maybe. Right. Do the Rangers think they can do better? Can they eat some of that salary? I'll say this based on just watching him from afar and some batted ball profile stuff. Josh H. Smith seems like a guy that the Mariners would want to take a shot on. He's been pushed out in that infield for obvious reasons. But I feel like every time I watch him play, he can play multiple spots. Left-handed hitter. He's got some pop. He's got some wheels.
Yeah.
Like, he feels like a solid bench guy.
Mhm.
Who's just been passed over by obviously all the big free agents and Young and Duran, and like he's been pushed off that roster. And so just wonder maybe somebody like that. And Seattle does have bullpen pieces, which should interest Texas. So there's a few guys, like pie in the sky, never going to happen. Adolis Garcia would be awesome to have Julio, but
Dude.
that's that's not happening. So
I'd get almost as excited about that as if the Mariners signed Ohtani, because like Adolis Garcia right now is probably my favorite non-Mariner in baseball.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
Adolis. It sucks that he's out for the rest of the series, but looks like he's probably going to get that ring either way. So Adolis would be awesome. Texas does have a limit in their payroll. I know it seems like they don't, but they do. And they've added Scherzer, and they're going to want to add even more this winter. So there are some guys. I don't have the ARB list in front of me, but they're going to have to make some choices on some guys. They're not going to be able to just continue to spend, because every team has their limit, even the Mets, even the Dodgers. So I do think there's a chance, but it's a very tight window. It's a tough needle to thread when you're trading again with another team who figures to be competing for the exact same thing you are next year.
Right.
Because right now, just like regardless of if the Rangers win the World Series or not, Seattle's roster is as good as Texas's right now.
I mean, they were right there. They were right there.
It's as good. It might be better. Certainly better bullpen, better pitching staff. I don't think that's debatable.
Yeah.
Lineup for the Rangers a little bit deeper, but you have the same star power, that potential that Texas does. You have Julio. He's your Corey Seager. Yeah, you have JP. Like, that's your Simeon. Like, you have the guys. So you make one or two, you have a good offseason, and you're better than Texas offensively too. So it's really tough for these three teams, Texas, Seattle, and Houston, because conceivably all three of them, if they have the right offseason, they could all win the division. Like, nobody would be shocked.
And given what's happened the last 2 years, pretty good shot they might win a World Series based off of that. So
AL East is a little bit top heavy, a little bit overrated. The Central's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I think these three teams are all entering this offseason thinking we can win a World Series next year, and that starts with winning the division. All three of them are going to have some money to spend, but not a ton. The Mariners have the most, in theory.
Theory. Yeah.
They should have the most to spend. They should have the most flexibility. Yeah. Wink. The Rafi wink. Wink.
You don't have to say wink, just wink.
I am wink.
Wink.
It's only one eye. That's what I'm doing. Wink. Where are the league fans out there? But
let us know in the comments below.
Yeah. Whitney died? How's Michael Jackson taking it? Oh, buddy. All right.
So real quick, Rangers are eligible players and their projections according to MLB Trade Rumors. Matt Bush, 2.1 million. Brett Martin, 1.28 million. Nathaniel Lowe, 8.8 million, which maybe lends a little bit more to the whole could they trade him thing. Jonathan Hernandez, 1.3 million. Jonah Heim, 3.6 million. Adolis Garcia, 6.6 million. Dane Dunning, 3.4 million. Brock Burke, 1.1 million. Josh Spores. How do you pronounce that guy's name? Spores? Is this Spores? 900K. And then Leody Taveras, 2.4 mil.
It's not a ton there, but Lowe, Burke, kind of interesting lefty out of the pen.
Yeah.
There are some fits here, but like I said, you're threading a needle when you're talking to Houston and Texas. So honestly, the team in the division with the best fit for the Mariners is the Angels. Maybe the fourth reset after Dipoto has finally softened the idiot's head, but I doubt it. So it's too bad too, because like I said, Taylor Ward to me is like the guy in this division that it's like, I think makes a lot of sense. I think you could get him for a good, for a good package. You're not going to get him for cheap, and that's fine. I'm not trying to get a cheap player. I'm trying to get a good player. So but yeah, I think Sandoval, I think Detmers, I think Ward, I think those are all great fits, and it just one team isn't willing to engage with you, as far as we know. Maybe that's changed. Maybe they just haven't lined up the last few years, but
We're
And,
also not in
again,
the building, so we don't know exactly.
Right.
Maybe
I mean,
there is an issue there with Jerry. Like maybe Jerry doesn't want to talk to them. I can't imagine that
don't
Jerry
know.
just closed himself
Mhm.
off from a channel to make his team better.
Right. Actually,
Just based off of
I
like personal beef.
I think I remember being told last summer that they asked about Taylor Ward. Like, so they were
Okay.
willing to discuss that, and the Angels just, and again, maybe this year, the last 2 years or 3 years, the Angels, like, they went for it at the
Yeah.
deadline, and so they
Yeah.
weren't really looking to sell. Now that they lose Ohtani, now that Trout might want out, and he's got his back issues and all that stuff, maybe they are finally willing to.
If he gets traded, he's going to Philly.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely,
yeah,
without
like,
question.
yeah.
And that's probably going to be like Trout for like Schwarber, and
Yeah.
like they're going to get some major league pieces back for Trout. And
Well,
honestly,
they're gonna
can.
have to contract swap a little bit there. So like
Oh
Schwarber.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If they can't, like, I wouldn't be shocked if the Angels had an offseason where we look at it and we go, I mean, you could use Shohei Ohtani, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
they and even if they trade Trout, it's like, oh yeah, they traded Trout, but they added Schwarber, and they added, Mick Abel, and they added, whatever, and you're just like,
Yeah.
now it would take a good baseball guy and an owner that doesn't, stand in the way, which
So that's
hasn't,
not going to happen.
right, which makes it highly unlikely, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's out there. I really wish Taylor Ward was on a different team, because he would be way up in my wish list.
Yeah.
But so it goes.
So once again, if you like this off-season talk, if you like this trade talk, we're doing a whole lot more of it over on our Patreon, patreon.com/control the zone. Again, you can get a 7-day free trial, so you can listen to the last few episodes that we posted on there, kind of hammering out our off-season plan, throwing some ideas out there. We're still working on it. We're actually working on a kind of exciting idea behind the scenes that we're going to talk about on tomorrow's show. So if you're interested in hearing about that, we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. We're delaying today's episode of CTZ to tomorrow. So yeah, check that out when it drops. Before we get out of here, question of the day, because there is no Thanksgiving. There's Thanksgiving in October here in Canada. Now that Halloween's over, it's all Christmas up here. So I'm going to ask you guys a Christmas themed question here. What is the best and worst Christmas song? Let us know in the comments below.
You're opening yourself up for the wrath of God by talking about Christmas before Thanksgiving. But you know what? I'll say it. Thanksgiving sucks. We should just go straight.
I love
Christmas.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's right. Ty will bring that back at some point.
Yeah.
He'll slip it into an ad read when we least expect it. But
yeah.
but
stay on high alert.
I don't love Thanksgiving. I hate Thanksgiving. So bring on Christmas. And the correct answer is obviously Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas. Duh.
It's already started up here. It's already started.
That is a song that is appropriate in July. Okay.
Okay. But when you hear it like 70 billion times over the course of 2.5 months, no.
It gets better every time.
No. No. Anyway, let us know down below. I know it's super early for you guys because you still have Thanksgiving to worry about, but it's Christmas season up here in Toronto. So
as it should be.
Right.
Any Nat King Cole fans out there? Huh?
There you go.
I love Christmas music. Ty likes fake Christmas music.
I love Christmas music.
They say Santa in the lyrics, and it doesn't matter what the rest of it's about. Ty counts that as a Christmas. Ty's Christmas taste is like Die Hard, the Christmas movie. Sub question: is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Boom.
Sure.
2 questions of the day.
Let us know below. All right. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Right there. Let it snow.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Trident Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. It's DANEGNZLZ. And Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day. We'll see you next time. Peace.